Ohad, I remember you had mentioned previously the mathematical aspect of language versus controlled language.
The concept of decidability, there is the question when you have a computational task. For example, the task for finding a contradiction among statements. It turns out that there are many computational tasks that cannot be solved in finite time. They need infinite time.
To be correct.
To be correct.
Yes. You can do a finite computation and be incorrect.
Yes. And this case is called undecidability. The things that you cannot solve in finite time. Now, what people of logic do, they define languages and they ask whether any statement in this language contains a contradiction is decidable or not. If yes, then you call the whole language decidable, and if not, you call it undecidable. It turns out that even very simple languages are already undecidable. For example, the language of arithmetic, the natural numbers 1, 2, 3 with addition and multiplication is already undecidable. This was the famous Gödel's completeness theorem from 100 years ago. There is the trade-off between expressiveness and decidability. The more you are able to say in the language, the less decidable it becomes. And in particular, natural language, because we can express arithmetic in natural language, then of course natural language is undecidable. There is another problem, which is about consistency. Some languages contain a contradiction in the very definition of the language, or let's say you can construct sentences that are not true and not false. And in natural language you can do so indeed. The typical example is the liar paradox. It's a sentence that cannot be true and cannot be false. So you want a language that is consistent and is decidable. In the programming language world, there is the concept of Turing completeness. A language that can express anything that theoretical construction of what is called a Turing machine can do. And indeed, programming languages try on purpose to be Turing complete. For people who remember how Ethereum began, their main goal was to have smart contracts in a language which is Turing complete. But Turing complete languages are undecidable. The task of asking questions about statements in Turing complete languages, in particular asking whether two programs will return the same output, whether two programs are equivalent, is undecidable. Now, one thing that sometimes people neglect is that you don't need to be Turing complete. You need Turing completeness no more than I need shampoo. Because Turing machines, they are mathematically equivalent to ordinary computers, completely except one point, that they have infinite memory, equivalent to computers with infinite memory. So you are never going to have real Turing machines anyway. And taking the example of arithmetic I said before, there are infinitely many numbers. But guess what? Only mathematicians care that there are infinitely many numbers. There are, but no one cares. Physicists don't need them. Programmers don't need them. No one cares that there are infinitely many numbers. When did you ever run out of numbers? You don't care. You don't need it. It is true that there are infinitely many numbers, but you don't need it. I'm not going to say that the way we achieve decidability is by limiting the machine's memory or by assuming finitely many numbers. We are doing it differently. We achieve decidability while maintaining the infinite, but I am pointing out that you don't need to go to undecidable languages. Stay within decidable languages and enjoy the decidability of being able to get answers to your questions. Or another way to put it, there is an algorithm that gives answers to questions. And decidability, one way to say it, is to say there is no algorithm. You want languages with algorithms that tell you whether something is true or false.
Yeah, by just speaking another side of the argument of Ohad. This is important to have a decidable language with an algorithm that actually exists and then terminates, which has to be correct. So then all the notion of decidability is based on the fact you want an algorithm that finds exactly a solution to your problem. And maybe for that particular problem, such an algorithm that terminates does not exist. So now we want to have decidable languages, namely that the language for which such an algorithm that terminates exists. And this algorithm has to find the correct answer to your problem. And the only way to do that is not to let programmers in a software house to build this program that terminates, but to employ mathematicians, logicians, that generates algorithms together with a mathematical proof that these algorithms do the right thing and these algorithms terminate and exactly with the right answer. So I go back to my very first statement about trust. So if you employ logic in this whole endeavor, you are guaranteed that the algorithms do the right thing. There is a theorem proving that. So you have not to worry about whatever the computer tells back to you. Moreover, you can decide what the process that the computer takes to give you an answer.